Welcome back to Perfectly Clear. I'm your host, Doug Taylor, and today we have something truly special for you. A roundtable conversation that brings together some of our most powerful and intuitive voices from this season. I'm joined by Daniel, a sound healer and energy worker, Sneska, also known as Sandy, a third-generation Serbian tasseomancer and Romani oracle reader. And Angie, you'll know her as a tarot reader, medium, and smudging practitioner, and of course, our co-producer here at Perfectly Clear. This episode is all about exploring how different spiritual tools, from coffee beans to sound bowls, from oracle cards to palms, all guide us to the same place, deeper knowing. We'll talk about energy, lineage, how spirit shows up in our work, and why sometimes the best thing you can do is just trust what you feel. So welcome, everybody, to our roundtable, our very first roundtable, and hopefully many more to come. Daniel, we'll start with you. If you could just give us a quick bio intro for yourself, because I'm not sure if everybody listened to our first episode with you.
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, I'm Daniel. I'm a sound healing practitioner, a certified bio practitioner, longtime meditator and professional rambler. And this is how I do my work. I've also, I work with astrology as well, bring it into the whole dynamic of sound because the universe is vibration. So this is what I am exploring. I spend a lot of time exploring the concept of mysticism and the mysteries. And with sound healing, this is something I bring to my clients both one-on-one and in group sessions. And it has been an amazing journey so far, and bringing spirit into the fold too. So, yeah.
And Sandy, the last time you got an intro from us on our show, it was probably about 3 minutes. You do so much. Can you sort of condense that into 2 minutes and 59 seconds?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Sandy. I'm also known as Sneska or Vestika. I am a third generation tasseomancer, so I read Turkish coffee and tea leaf reading cups, ceromancy, so wax divination or candle divination, an ordained minister, tarot cards, Romani, Kipper cards, and so much more. So, yeah, Jane of all trades.
Well, you kept it under 3 minutes. So
I did.
Yes. And let's go to my daughter, Angela, the producer. She calls herself the co-producer, but we all know who the real person is behind all this. Angie.
Thank you, Dad. I'm Angie. I am a tarot reader, clairvoyant, intuitive, and obviously the co-host of Perfectly Clear every now and then, and co-producer. You've probably heard me on earlier episodes in regards to tarot, smudging, and mediumship. Typically, I'm always drawn to spaces where intuition and healing and storytelling can kind of meet, where we can connect and continually ground ourselves and experience the different energies that we can.
Great. And so we're talking about, I guess, Daniel, you were, I would assume, and pardon me if I'm wrong, later development spiritually than myself and Sandy. So what was your first experience with your practice or your gift?
My first experience, this would depend if we're talking about doing card readings or sound. Sound came later, but my first experience really was when I started learning about mediumship through mediumship mechanics through my teacher, who is still my teacher now for a great many things, and just an amazing person, Marilyn Mazzotta. And when I started learning with her and through her, I started to experience something truly profound, a profound transformation. And this was my first time working with spirit and to really get into a group, get with a group of people to start doing platform work in a safe space. And I was bringing through messages and spirit that I was shell-shocked. I shell-shocked myself with it. That started my whole journey, along with an astrology reading she did with me. And then I kind of went into sound because I feel like that's the direction spirit was bringing me as well. So,
and what age, Daniel, would you have been at that time? Roughly, if you don't mind saying.
Oh, well, let me think back. It was 2017. So if I'm mathing correctly, and I should know this, 10, 20, 30, 30, I was about 30. I was just turning 32. So I was 30, 31 years of age. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And Sandy, what about you?
As to when I realized my gifts?
Well, your first experience with your practice or your gift. What was your first experience with your practice or your gift? Can you recall that? Because
playing at the kitchen table at my grandparents' house.
Wow.
Playing with the beans and the dried corn. And not realizing that I was actually doing divination until much later. It was brought up by my grandmother. And then definitely with the cup readings, because that was just a normal daily thing. Yeah. I just picked up a cup and just started reading. So,
wow. Yeah. Wow. And Angie, what about you?
Very similar to Sandy, actually, very, very young. At this point, I don't really have memories of not seeing spirit. They were always there. Obviously, we had a very busy household in that sense with lots of intuitive people in that home. So lots of energy, lots of spirit around. I first got into tarot. I want to say I was around 12. I think 12 when Mom bought me my first set of tarot. And I realized that I also was using it much more as a window, much more intuitively. I didn't really know what the cards meant. I was just telling you what I was seeing. And, I never really follow any type of book. Each deck is very, very different. I don't really follow what you're supposed to be reading based off of that exact card. It's very similar to you, Dad, I think, with the palms, where you see what you see, you read the paper, and it's that window for me to have a little bit more insight and to connect with different spirit as well. But yeah, I'm 31 now, so much more than half my life of reading, and pretty much my entire life, I know there's stories of me looking down the hall as a baby and seeing spirit and not understanding the difference yet, not being able to differentiate the difference between someone here with us and a spirit slightly beyond us.
Right. For myself, it's a different story altogether. I think I've mentioned it in about 3 of our podcasts. I started, I thought it was about 4 or 5, but the more I think about it now, I really do think it was at the age of 5, because it was just after something tragic happened in our family at that age for me. And when I look back on it now, maybe that was the beginning of opening doors for me. So that's my first recollection, and my first experience was seeing spirit in general at that age.
Wow. And when, I know we might have touched on it in previous episodes, Dad, but when was the first time you saw spirit so young, but when was that first time that you started to realize that you were able to read palms as well?
I think I was about 12 or so, and actually a girl put her hand out to either shake my hand or whatever, and I could see things. I was able to see, not like forever and ever. I could see certain things that had happened with her in her life. So at that point in time, not her entire history, but certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow.
I feel like I'm a bit of a late bloomer here.
Oh,
Starting at 31. I do remember a time when I was 8 where I was like, nature was the way I was feeling things, like thunderstorms. Like there's something much greater in this whole universe. So maybe it was like back then, but it felt a little more significant. But now looking back, I'm like, working with like nature spirits, found my sister's book, went through that. I'm like, oh, there is some greater power out there. Anyways, but otherwise I feel like a late bloomer.
I think it's that perfect example then, though, that, we all have these gifts within us. We all have these different senses and abilities, and it's just really tapping into it and seeing where that lies.
It's like it's encoded into our DNA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think on that note, actually, it's so interesting to have all of us together where we all have completely different modalities. And I know Sandy and I overlap a little bit because we both read different cards, and I've dabbled with some tea leaves as well in my past too. And it's always so interesting to see what windows and what opportunities we have to connect and to offer any type of insight or a reading or guidance or anything like that. Sandy, you have so many different modalities. It's very impressive. And I think I feel this shift to myself where there's ebbs and flows for what I really am drawn to in different moments. Sometimes that is just, kind of flat out reading. Sometimes I'm drawn to the cards more. Sometimes I do want to look at the tea leaves. Sometimes I really need to smudge a lot. What tool right now, or maybe modality, do you feel most connected to and most grounded with?
I feel a lot of it is a lot more scrying. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the ceromancy and the tea leaf and the cups and stuff. But it really depends on, I just kind of go with the flow with my clients and just what is spirit telling you? Do we need a little bit of mediumship? Do we need a little bit of, scrying, or are we just feeling cards, or do we just need, what is it that you need to know today? And 9 times out of 10, it's like spirit talks, and it's like, okay, this is what they need to know. So it's perfect. Yeah. So the majority of the time, a lot is it's scrying. Yeah.
It's incredible. We really do, like, you're drawn to whatever I feel like window is being opened the most. Like you're going to know where it's going to be let in. So you got to be a little fluid sometimes with the way that you shift with your energies and the way that you shift with and toggle and be quite malleable with any type of way that you're connecting. And with that, there's a sense of interpretation, and there's a sense of receiving information. And I think it's really incredible. Especially Daniel, you have this really incredible capability here with sound and with energy and with healing. So how do you kind of utilize sound or symbols or pieces of information to receive that information and send it back out to whoever you're trying to connect with?
I think it's all about vibration. Like I say, universe is vibration. When I meet with clients, or even bringing in people for like a sound bath or a group session, it's just, you almost can feel their thoughts or how they're feeling for that day. And I think by working with sound, and with spirit, it has opened up channels or avenues to really kind of feel that out. And in receiving that, then I know what frequencies to use, for example, to give back to the person, right? I think there's a bit of mirroring, and when we bring astrology and cycles and patterns into all of this, we really start to see themes that are happening with people all at the same time. And then so sometimes I cheat a little bit, and I'm like, this is the theme that's happening. Sure enough, some people show up or they reach out to me and like, oh, so this is going on in my life. I'm like, yeah, that's what, Neptune is doing. That's what Mars is doing. And I'm like, let's blame the planets. Whee! So, but it truly is profound. So, taking those pieces of information astrologically, connecting with people, and then using that knowledge and that information to delegate like the frequencies, like 128 hertz or whichever chakral frequency that I need to use.
Wow. That's it. I think the sound is so incredibly interesting to me. It's so different than anything I've ever had experience with. So it's always refreshing to hear these kind of like little tidbits there.
So, Angie, how do you know when a reading is landing or accurate?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm very energetically connected. I feel lots of intense emotions when I'm reading. I feel very sense of like firmness. I feel a sense of like, because sometimes when you read, you kind of challenge them. I'm like, no, I know this is true. You might not know what I'm saying is true, but I am telling you for a fact, like they are not backing off here. They are not letting this go. You got to be careful here, or whatever the message is that I'm trying to convey. Sometimes you have to be a little bit like, it's fine. You're going to call me tomorrow and you're going to tell me that I was right. That's fine. It's all good. But just know I'm right. But then other times you can say, maybe it's not landing or it's not quite right, because we are interpreting, right? We're presented with imagery or sounds or tastes or feels or emotional components, or, you're seeing a message, but you're not fully hearing that message. So you're trying to piece little bits together and just try and convey what you're seeing or what you're feeling or et cetera. And sometimes it doesn't land. Sometimes it's not connecting. Sometimes you're reading the wrong person in the room, and that's something that ends up kind of getting all mixed up in there. But you also have to have a sense, at least when I read, you have to have a sense of connecting with the person as well. And you can a lot of the times feel that shift in themselves of having acceptance or having an understanding or something has finally clicked. And you have to be malleable, and you have to be gentle at times and understand, yes, this has landed, and maybe they're not ready to admit that it's landed. And maybe I am dead on, but I need to back off a little bit. These are people, right? These are people with real life emotions and real life heartbreak and real life grief. And we have to be kind and compassionate and be a bit of more of a support than you might anticipate. Yes, we're reading the paper, so to speak, but you're also a little bit part therapist and grief counselor and, holding a hand while they're going through a heartbreak or facing a really difficult time in their lives. So being malleable and being compassionate and empathetic, and also trusting your instincts are really important.
So I find myself, I think we all can see this whole big world of information that a lot of people can't see. Maybe I can put it that way. And yet, when you look at it, it's like we're peeping through the keyhole. Does that make sense? Like we really can't take it all. I mean, we're just sort of seeing a certain glimpse at times. How do you feel about that?
I do think that's very crucial to keep in mind. We're seeing fractional pieces, and we're seeing we don't know really what everything this person's going through. We're feeling a little bit of what they're going through, or something that someone else has gone through, and they're trying to have some validation there and trying to connect with them and keep that tie there sometimes, or keep that relationship open and fluid. But it's all fractional. It's all part of a much bigger picture, really. And that's something we all have to keep in mind.
So something for all of us, and I'll start with you, Daniel. Do you see your work as healing, revealing, or both?
Oh, definitely both.
Okay.
I love to combine multiple facets, science as well, through the biowell scans that I do. And they are revealing, because I can show people the results of sound healing, and I can show them like a before and an after just by doing a biowell scan. And I think that even doing spiritual work or working with cards, whatever it is that we do, actually, I'll give an example. I just recently worked with a client, and I was doing trance mediumship healing with them. Had to spend quite a lot of time just getting into the state. I think it took me about 15 to 20 minutes. But when I was in that, it was both healing for them, it activated a healing response in their body, but also revealing, where and what the things that they need to work on. So, it is all encompassing. And I really like what you said about the peeping through the keyhole, because where is the fun if we can see it all? I think it's so important that we each have that keyhole to look through. It's like, I really, really want to see what's beyond it. But then you do it, it's like, okay, whatever. I think that every perspective that we can see keeps things very interesting for all of us, clients and practitioners. I say clients, people, right? The people we work with. Everyone has their own version of that keyhole. I think that's what really keeps that kaleidoscope moving. And
yes. And Sandy, what about you? Do you find your work as healing, revealing, or both?
I would also have to say both. I do a lot of heavy reads. I wish I had the simple read some days, but you know what? It is beautiful because just the impact and just being with these beautiful people and just sitting with them and being able to show them exactly their path and where they're going and things that are showing up to them. It's like showing when people actually show up in their cup that don't want to show up in their cup. And it's very interesting. It's like, oh, there they are, and full on face, and they can recognize them, the whole thing. And it's, I love that revealing aspect as well, but also, allowing, them to feel safe with me. I always say this is a very safe space. If there's anything that I happen to say or any specific words that may trigger something, please let me know so I can give you that time to process this information.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, things unravel. A lot of tears are shed. I go through a lot of boxes a day, and so it's, but just being able to reach them and their ancestors or whoever and whatever I'm working with at that particular session is it's absolutely rewarding. And then getting the text after, it's like, oh my gosh, things are starting to unravel. Just wow, and it's just, so it makes me feel great that I'm able to connect with everyone at that level.
Well, you see, it's great for me because I just get to ask a lot of questions. I don't necessarily have to answer a lot of questions today. But so, Angela, what do you think this is for you?
I agree with everyone. It's definitely both for me as well. And we chatted briefly to this, or not so briefly, I guess, in our previous episode on mediumship that at this point is out. We talked about, when you work with people and you provide insight for people or a healing nature for someone, whether that's, I say grief because I do tend to do a lot of mediumship work. And so within that, I'm connecting to a lot of spirit that obviously have passed. And there's a big sense of heartache that gets attached to that through the grief. But there's also so much healing that happens with the smallest pieces of validation, the smallest little messages that we can pass on. And also, I've had a lot of incredible experiences where maybe someone has fallen ill or someone is about to fall ill, and I can offer a little bit of insight and say, we might have a bit of a timeline here. We might need to cherish some moments here. We might need to act a little quicker here. And I've had people after say, like, thank God you told me this. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't know. If I say, like, I think the table's set. I think maybe it's August, or maybe I'm seeing a 6, or it's coming up close. I can feel this. I can touch it. There's a sense here, and it's offered a lot of reassurance and also urgency at times that they didn't know that they needed that urgency. Right. So it's very healing. And then there have been times where you do readings and you say, like, this might not be the path for you. I can see a split here. I can see a different direction that we're moving, or I can see you in this situation or this location, or and people can get a bit of a fire under their butts with that. They can say, like, okay, maybe I do need to make that move now. Maybe, like, this has been sitting with me for a long time, and it can reveal a piece of them that they didn't know was there and wasn't ready to unlock just yet either. And it's also been healing and revealing for me. I learn so much every time I read, and I learn about people, and I learn about, the tender moments and the sweetness of relationships, and the shortness of not only life, but of experiences and situations. Everything is going to pass, for good or for bad. Right? So we need to make sure that we are really sitting in things when we're in them.
Absolutely.
Now,
sorry, go ahead, Angie.
I do think it's your turn to maybe answer the question.
My turn.
Yeah.
Well, so I find it healing as well. I find it revealing. I think the census says it's both, right? People are coming to see you particularly because they have a question. They have a question, and you're there supposedly to give them an answer. And maybe that's a wrong way to phrase it, but it's curiosity. That's why they're there. I feel in some, maybe majority of people, they're drawn to receive a message, period. I think we can all agree that how do people land, for instance, Sandy, at your table where you are? It's like, why not somebody else? And I know you're very good because you're so diverse. And same with Daniel, and same, like, why? Because it all happens for a reason, and they are there to get a message, and that message is going to come from you 99% of the time. So I do feel, yes, it's revealing, and it's a healing point for them, for the individuals. So yeah, I guess it is both. Yeah. Anybody want to jump in on something, on a comment?
I do. I would love to just touch base with Sandy, because I feel I've never experienced, I'm saying it right, tescomancy,
yeah.
Tescomancy. I've never experienced it, but I feel that there is a massive parallel to the tarot and to vibration. So, like, when you're pouring the tea into the teacup, that's like the fire element of fire, because it's just like creating that sort of like primordial soup. It's like the spirit getting introduced into the cup. People drink it. That's the emotional. That's the water, and then they're thinking with their thoughts, and that's the swords, and then we're air component, and then they look down, and then there's earth manifested, crystallized into the cup. And then I think of how that like translates to sound and vibration, because the whole time there is vibration happening around this person, and then there's the message at the bottom of the cup. So I would really love to, like, I don't know, I had this idea of like vibrational pre-imprinting with tessiomancy to see how that kind of works. Like, I'm throwing a lot of big words, sorry. What do you, like sound steeped divination is.
So
Well, it
I
sounds.
absolutely love that. Sorry, Doug.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy. Go
I
ahead.
absolutely love that. And I loved how you took all of the elements in into how you would drink a cup, right? And then even, at the end of it, when you're looking at the cup, you're looking at the Mother Earth or Earth, and you're just like, oh, you're seeing the entire story unravel. And yeah. I joke around and I always say, it's like, I always like to do a mind meld with you, like put my brain into yours and to have that like movie in my head. And so that you could see what I see in your cup and use it as like a teaching opportunity. So also the Mother Earth portion, right? So yeah. I love it. I love it. But even with like sound and stuff like that, yes, because it's all chakra based and as well, and frequency and everything. So yeah, and it's trying to keep that, key in line and everything. So, so yeah, love it. Love it.
What happens instead of using a spoon, I use a tuning fork, ting, 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 and just like, mix it, just stir the cup a little bit.
Exactly. Even tapping too, right? So yeah.
We're onto something here.
We are totally onto something.
Yeah, right?
So when we're working with spirit, so Sandy, what does it feel like when spirit is present for you?
Oh, it varies on who they are. Sometimes I'll see them. I'll hear them or I'll feel them, or sometimes they'll just give me messages, in the sense of, for example, it's like, I'll get a migraine or I'll have like certain ailments on my body. It's like, okay. Or someone, I have blurry vision. And as I'm doing a reading, it's like, okay, someone's trying to put wool over your eyes or something. Like I'm having a hard time seeing, or I'm not seeing the truth or something. So, a lot of that is spirit speaking to me. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And Angie, how do you prepare for mediumship or intuitive work?
Oh, I touched on it in some earlier episodes, I think, when we were chatting about overall clairvoyance, but it really varies. I try to really ground myself, and that's when I'm able to prepare. Right? We all go into places and it just hits you. We all go and meet people and shake their hand, and all of a sudden there's all kinds of spirits with you. But when I have the opportunity to prep for a reading or prep for a smudging or, even just a small piece of energy work or intuitive work, I try to take a little bit of a moment to just ground myself. I am terrible at meditation. I just am. It's so hard for me to like clear it all out and sit with myself. It's just, I'm atrocious at it. I promise I try my hardest, but I find that some journal work is really great. Some grounding with some crystals is really fantastic. If I'm going to be doing, maybe a bigger read, especially if it's in my home, I try to do a brief little smudge session as well, clear out some energy, make some room for some positive things, kind of refresh myself a little bit. And that I find really allows those channels to open up. I also tend to kind of look to the spirit that is normally around me and kind of open myself up to them a little bit. As you know, we all in the family tend to have quite a bit of spirit in each home. We kind of roll with a group of people. So I do a little check-in and have a little brief kind of exchange, a little chat, open that channel up a little bit more. And then I feel a little bit more relaxed. I also have more of a full body response similar to Sandy when I am reading. I do get certain, triggers that get a loss of heaviness in my chest, or I am a little bit more tactile. I can feel things, I can taste things. And taste things sometimes that I didn't know I've even tasted before. And I'm like trying to describe this. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What kind of alcohol am I tasting? And then it's like, oh, actually, that was their favorite thing to drink. And I'm like, okay, great, wonderful. Validation. Huzzah. So we can do that, and we can have a full body response. And when we prep and we're able to open those channels, it's great so that we can be prepared for when spirit is present, and when we're opening even to clairvoyance aside from spirit, and we're maybe trying to read some things that have gone on in the past or what's to come, or even something that happens with me a lot, because I'm very empathic, is I connect a lot with what's going on right now, and try and focus on that a little bit to allow people to work through some things. I feel like I'm a bit of a therapist in my day job, and I end up being a bit of a therapist with this too. So, I think when we're all kind of a little bit empathic, that's just the nature of the beast.
And Daniel, are there any boundaries that you've had to learn or maintain in your work?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do readings as well. I feel like most of the boundaries I've had to navigate were through the actual readings, whether they're astrology or tarot, because people can get and I think we've all talked about it at some point, people make it heavy, very emotional, and that's perfectly fine. We have to, or what I end up doing is allowing people to work through it, but also, having to just give some that gentle reassurance, compassionate care, listening, because at the end of the day, we also can't, sit there for 5 or 6 hours and listen, right? If I had all the time, I guess it'd be a different story. So, just giving sort of gentle reminders. As far as sound healing goes, I kind of lay out all the boundaries ahead of time, because people have to, essentially sign something, because there are contraindications to working with sound healing, especially applying vibrations directly to the body. So I haven't really encountered any sort of boundary navigation with sound healing work. I will say that I make things pretty clear ahead of time. So, and it's just like kind of tapping back into what Angie said too, about meditation. Having a singing bowl or a tuning fork, something that can just create just a sound, very simple sound that you can keep going. If your mind is focusing on one thing, it's better than trying to suppress everything and focus on nothing. And really, I find it a very effective way to kind of help work with meditation.
Wow. So the next segment, Angie, I'm going to throw this one over to you to facilitate a little bit, because I'm definitely interested in listening.
So this kind of came up a little bit already in our chats as we progress with this episode, and I think it's so interesting that we all have a different experience with our different varying gifts, and I have a bit of a leg up, so to speak, by having someone that I can always go to chat about what I went through or what I'm seeing or what I'm feeling. And as I started to age and start to understand things, and, my dad was a little bit forceful of making me figure some things out, because you got to interpret your own way and you got to connect in your own way. But when you have a familial connection, it's really fantastic. And that extends to ancestral and cultural roots. And Sandy, I know this is such a huge component for you in all of your work. It's so rooted in culture and ancestry, and obviously it's rooted in the modalities that you use. But how does that end up transferring and showing up in your practice on the daily, with all of your different interactions?
Golly. Yeah, it's interesting because because my mom, my mom reads still, and it's interesting to compare cups, or compare certain situations or even dreams. She'll talk to me about her dreams and stuff. And where my dad's from, a lot of it is very quiet. We don't talk about it. It's very secretive in those villages. A lot of it is feared. So you have to keep it on the down low, and it's passed down from grandmother, from, woman to woman, or, so, but living here and majority of my family being over there, so whenever I was able to go over there when they came down, it's like a lot of that was taught, or it was just, I just started doing it, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really it's funny because obviously these things do run in the family. Like there is that element to this, right? Where this is, and whether that's a genetic thing or an openness or an energy vibration that resides in that household because of it, or whatever that looks like, it really is so interesting when you have someone very close to you that can also read and can also connect. And there can be this comparison game. There can also be, my mom loves to do this. She loves to, if my dad and I have had a glass of wine or something, she loves to be like, oh, I just have a couple questions about some ancestors, if you don't mind answering. And, and she gets us both reading, and we're both kind of, we will start reading off of each other and connecting off of different things. And it's been really interesting to see that develop as I've gotten older and as I've gotten much more confident in what I'm seeing and what I'm reading. My dad has been really moving and embracing reading a little bit more openly. I have embraced reading a little bit more openly as well. So it's just interesting when you are surrounded by that, and there is a very big difference, I think. And there is a question coming for you, Dad, because I grew up in a household where this was normalized. And yes, you maybe didn't run around and say it in the street, but because they will think you're a little crazy. But I grew up in a house where it was normal. I grew up in a house where everyone has had a sighting. Everyone has seen some sort of spirit. Everyone's seen grandpa. We all know, right? So, and I grew up with a parent that could read and could see, and another parent that was so incredibly open to it and encouraged it, right? So, but I think having that was very different. And Dad, I know you had a very different experience when you started seeing.
Yes, I mean you've got to look at the time. 65 years ago, and like you said earlier, it wasn't a case where you could run out in the street and say, even now, some circle of friends look at you and they don't really embrace it, and they think you're some sort of a kook, So that was, and myself, it just kept on coming and coming and coming, and I kept saying, okay, I got to sort of slow it down. I got to stop it. I got to shut it out. And it's only been recently, in the last little while, that I've actually opened it up and been able to. Am I seeing more? I'm allowing more, I think, is the answer. I'm allowing more, because in the past, I've been so used to being, as a small child, being told, no, don't say nothing. Because my grandmother had some abilities to see, and it was pretty evident in our family, because one of my relatives, and I'm not sure who, was a tea leaf reader. So I just remembered tales around dinner table that so-and-so was reading tea leaves that day or whatever. So anyways, that's my take on it. So client dynamics speaking, Sandy, what's something that often surprises clients that you may see?
that I may see. Oh, when their faces show up
Okay.
in their
Like-
cup, hands down. When faces show up, specific situations show up, or it just comes completely literally. It's like, I tell a story. It's like, wow, this is exactly what I'm dealing with right now. Or this was last week. And it's a full on story. It's that validation piece for them.
And Daniel, what about you? What's something that often surprises your clients? Because I do know that you also dabble in tarot, and maybe that's not a good word to use, dabble, but what often surprises your clients?
I think we're all big dabblers in what we do because it's a constant exploration. So you got the word right. Honestly, when I work with sound healing with my clients, the big thing is receiving those affirmations about, something happening in a certain part of the body. I think I discussed this when we did our last episode together, where a lot of Claire Taclius, I believe that's how it's pronounced, comes through, where it's sort of like a medical intuition, not to diagnose anybody, but to visualize and describe and help people to either affirm or to say, you know what, this is what I'm picking up, and then refer them to somebody who can help with that, or tell them to, go see somebody. Perfect example, when I was working with my last client, I had picked something up on the right eye. So in my mind's eye, a lot of almost like lightning bolts. And to me, I was like, lightning bolts, blood vessels. And I brought this up with them, and they were, whoa, okay. Yeah, there has been something going on with the right side of my head and my right eye. I've been getting a lot of bloodshot eyes recently. So then I just recommended them to go see their eye doctor. And that's, I just visualize and describe, but every single time I will use sound and then the biowell to give further affirmation to a certain organ or part of the body. People usually get blown away by that. So,
and just a follow up, we chatted with Angie and Sandy about this question before, but do you ever not read for someone?
I know that personally, when I do readings, there are some people that I won't read, certain family members sometimes that are a little too close for comfort. My incredible fiance, she loves to get in there and ask some questions, and sometimes just like, you know what, babe, it's too close. I'm not reading this. I'm not doing it. I know I think Sandy, you had chatted as well on some previous episodes of sometimes there's still some lines that you don't always want to cross. Sometimes there's some pressure to do it. So Daniel, do you have moments like that where you refuse to read certain people, or there are boundaries that you set with certain clients or certain friends or family?
Definitely have to set those boundaries with friends and family sometimes, because I'm too emotionally invested. And that's just the reality of it. As far as people that I normally read for, or people who are coming to me for a reading for the first time, I have had a few instances where I've said respectfully and politely, sorry, the energy is just not there. It's just not happening. And it happens, right? And we make peace with that, and maybe we explore it at another time. And I think it's important to really feel that energy space. And for the person you're reading for as well, I tell them, if you are not feeling it, just let me know early on, and then we can work it out from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll throw this open to the floor here. How do you help people stay open, even when the message is hard? Can anybody answer that one?
I think probably for me, and I really want to hear Sandy's piece on this, because I know you read more deep readings, and I feel like I get roped into these deep readings as well, very accidentally. I get drawn to people, and I'm like, I got to tell you something, and you get roped into some harsher connections, and some harder things to process even yourself. But I find that really truly trying to connect with the person that you're reading, creating like a true, authentic connection with someone. Again, we're all humans, we're all people. We have these feelings, we have emotions, everything is valid. You know, I'm very kinetic as a person. I do put my hand on someone and you know, and try to establish an actual grounded connection with them, offer some support, offer, you know, a little softening to what is sometimes a really harsh blow is really incredibly important. And reminding them like, listen, like this is a validating thing. It's okay. You know, this is a message that you need to hear right now. And this is hard. And I can understand that, and holding space and holding silence and holding time for people to process can allow them to be able to keep moving forward and staying open. But I know, Sandy, I would love to hear how you kind of navigate this as well.
Yeah, it's the same. It's first telling them that this is a safe space, right? When they come sit with me at the table, it's a completely safe space between me and them in spirit. And definitely, you know, being very mindful of emotions and thoughts and everything, and just creating that safe space. And I'm kinetic too, where it's like, if I feel or I see that they're triggered, it's like, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Do you need a moment? And I will grab their hands and it's like, okay, hold my hands. And we'll do like breathing exercises for a few minutes and just releasing all that emotion and everything. And when they come to, it's like, okay, are you with me? And they're like, yes, thank you. That feels better. And it's like, okay, are we okay to continue? And it's like, yes, we definitely can. And it's almost like, it's a healing, but it's very therapeutic for them because it's a release for them as well. So yeah, it's a lot of breath work, a lot of working with them and talking through it with them, and just knowing that they are okay. And back to that, even that therapist, you know, you were talking about being a therapist earlier. It's like, yes, you are a therapist, right? But also if they're not in a safe situation, you know, making sure that they are safe and okay. And taking those actions is like, okay, do we need to get you help? Do you need help? How can we help you? And stop the read there. And, you know, being ethically, like there's high ethics and integrity with that. It's like, okay, are you safe? And stop the read and just make sure that they're okay. And if you have to call whoever, you call whoever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so tough. And we kind of touched on this earlier, so I guess people were picking up what we've already planned, because I did want to chat about some of the, this kind of time of year with this frequency going on with a lot of different retrograded planets. A lot of things are happening, a lot of crazy stuff is going on. I've noticed so many shifts lately. I've noticed, whether that's intuitive symbols or, you know, thresholds or cleansing, you know, there's rebirths happening. There's like full on like deaths of like life pieces happening, lots of splitting of paths. There's that like old patterns, dreams, the spiritual nudges are resurfacing. I'm feeling like my intuition is louder, but also foggier at the same time. Like there's an overwhelm that's going on for me, and I am picking up on things, and I'm trying to be like, hey, I gotta be able to function. And, you know, I'm saying to my partner, like, I'm sorry, babe, I'm just getting this feeling like something's going to happen tomorrow and I need you to be prepared for it. And normally I'd be able to, you know, not give up the ghost, so to speak, with certain things, but there is an overwhelmed and a craziness that's happening. Have you anyone here also been going through this?
Yep. 100%. And again, we can blame the planets. It's all thematic. It's the patterns. And yeah, I'm feeling that. And what you said about the fog, but at the same time, it's all Neptunian, right? Because Neptune is like the ultimate planet of fog, but also spirituality. And I live really close to my Neptune line. I have all my So, I'm like, am I always experiencing brain fog, or is this like spiritual? Sometimes it's, one or the other. But these days, feeling it.
I wholeheartedly agree. And it's been like that for a while. And I have to laugh and say, it's like, what a time to be alive. And to see this whole transformation and everything happen. Astrology speaking, hands down, I wholeheartely agree. But this has been going on astrologically for a long time. We've just been preparing for it. So, going on and so forth. Like today, Saturn stations direct, right? And then tomorrow, Mercury stations direct. And we're like, oh, thank God. But we still have to own our own stuff. Now it's all our fault, right? But, but, it's seeing everybody, like, you're fine, that the aspects and just the energies and everything, everybody's just having a hard time, especially in September during the eclipse energy, the 2 eclipses there. But it was, and you're just sitting here going, okay, I'm just in my corner, just chilling out and just watching this all go down, and you're just trying to stay cool.
Wow. I spoke to some of our future guests coming on, and talked to a lot of people. I've noticed it myself, but they have also brought it up to me as well. So the consensus is pretty general that, there's a tilt going on here right now.
It's really interesting because we have this craziness that's happening. So then it's almost like extra important that we stay a little bit more spiritually grounded within this like very chaotic, overwhelming, foggy, insane time. And I've been feeling like I need to slow down a little bit more and reconnect, not just with like my gifts, but like with my body too, like fully like ground myself, like slow my heart rate down. Like I get those feelings of like full body anxiety even, right? Where you're like, oh my God, like my body's on high alert. Like what is happening? And I have to take a minute and like light the candles and like sit or go for like a really good solid walk and be in nature and connect and ground myself in that way too. And those little rituals that can remind us that we are supported, we are safe as well. Like there's so much overload sometimes that like we just that gentle reminder of like, hey, you're safe, you're good. Like keeping you grounded in that way during these big energetic shifts and grounding with like a gentleness and of setting boundaries, even in just personal life boundaries, not necessarily like work and reading related, and like trusting ourselves a little bit more. Do we have any kind of pieces that we're trying to enforce a little bit more within those grounding natures? Sandy, have you been having to pick up on that a little bit extra?
Definitely. A lot more breath work, and just really proactively trying to keep a very positive mindset. And yes, there may be hours where it's a very challenging hour, but it's like, okay, we gotta keep our mind straight and keep it cool. And what do we have control over? What don't we have control over? And just keep going and just not having a lack mentality, or just continue to have that positive mindset and just keep moving forward. And definitely breath work and having time within yourself and having some quiet. Because you got to put yourself first. We help so many people every day, and but we have to take care of ourselves first.
Absolutely. So, Daniel, you do so much energy work. How does that look for you right now?
I think everyone took my ideas, so thank you. I'm going to say the same thing. It's all about grounding at this time. It's always a fine line because you get almost like these downloads, so to speak, spiritual downloads. And it's like, am I flying with this, or am I staying grounded? Or maybe it's just all happening exactly the way it needs to happen. And I think that's one of the key points, is understanding and acknowledging that even though times might be a little wild, it's exactly what needs to happen, because that's what we determined before we came here. We're here to learn. We're here to experience these times. We're not here to, ride the ponies and rainbows, in a manner of speaking. This is our learning. This is how we help one another. And as I love to speak of Ram Dass, we're all walking each other home. And I think those words just hold so true. And that in itself is grounding. And that's how I met.
So I have one last question for all of you before we move on to our closing is for people who are just starting to explore their intuition, what piece of advice would each of you give them? Daniel, go ahead.
I will say that something I've noticed, people will usually tell me that they have started to feel something or experience something. And I think that is a very key time to tell them we need to foster that energy and not shut it out. And surprisingly, and I'm a teacher as well, so I work with a lot of children, and I've had children telling me this. Like, what is this? What am I, I see this person or I've started feeling this connection. And, I tell them, this is a very important time for you to not have any fear, but just to be curious and to explore through, whatever you feel like exploring, sitting by that tree, just, even hugging a tree, connecting to nature, grounding through nature, listening and being open to signs, to numbers, numerology, to things that opening up your senses to anything that feels different or you experience something differently. Just acknowledge it, maybe write it down, and be open to any possibility.
And Sandy, what about you? One piece of advice would you give to someone who's starting to explore their intuition?
Daniel was just right in my head and took everything out. I love it. No, it's true. Definitely not to have fear. Definitely to be curious, definitely to journal, ask a lot of questions, and learn and try to find the right mentors and that sort of stuff and that sort of thing. Yeah, definitely. And don't, use all your senses, follow your dreams, journal it, and just find the synchronicities with everything. And then you will start seeing all the patterns come in, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, okay. If the vibe's off when you meet a person, well, you're like, oh, normally I would like them. And then all of a sudden it's like, why do I feel off with them? Yeah. There's a reason for it. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Daniel said.
We're playing the mind meld.
Right? We're playing the mind meld right now.
So Angie, I'm going to give you the last line on this before we close out. So what piece of advice could you give to someone just starting to explore their intuition?
I do think Daniel and Sandy hit the nail on the head, but I think there's, for me, the thing that I always say to people is to trust themselves. If you're having a feeling, it's for a reason. If you are seeing something, you're seeing it. Don't second guess it, absorb it, feel it, let that sit with you, but trust it, lean into your instincts. If your gut is telling you something is rotten in the state of Denmark, it's probably because it is. If you meet someone and you don't like them for some reason, it's because there's a reason. If you are nervous about something that you would normally never be nervous about, trust that feeling. Our bodies are telling us, our bodies are absorbing energy and reading energy and feeling it. And we're opening ourselves up. And the more you open yourself up, the more you can receive. And, be gentle with what you experience and don't necessarily force a meaning either. It doesn't always have to mean something. It can just kind of be. So trust yourself that something's happening. Trust that, things are going on for a reason. But don't get hung up on the details necessarily. Keep open, and lean into it a little bit, and the more you lean into it, the more open you're going to be, and the more you're going to tap into some really interesting things.
Great. So I want to thank you all for such an exciting and our longest podcast. Thank you, Sandy, for your wonderful insight. And Daniel, thank you for all your insight. And Angie, you're not going to go anywhere. You'll still be my daughter. So that's one good thing. So this has been such a joy to sit in a circle with such powerful, intuitive voices. So whether you're drawn to sound, symbol, ritual, or touch, every path we spoke about today offers its own doorway into healing and clarity. If this conversation stirred something in you, we encourage you to explore your own intuitive language. Maybe it's already speaking. You just haven't learned to listen yet. To connect with any of today's guests or to book a private reading with me, check the show notes for details or visit our website at www.perfectlyclaire.com. And as always, stay open, stay curious, and trust what you feel.